In previous videos, we were talking about the laws of egregores and what kind of egregores are impacting a human and how they impacting the human and what's the laws of interaction of humans, us as a humans, as somebody who lives on the planet Earth, between us and the entities of egregores. So today we will be talking about the sacred hierarchy of creation, the entire creation that starts from absolute, and one of the last chains in this creation is the planet Moon, and we are like almost at the end of this chain on creation, or we can also say the ray of creation. And in order to go through all this parts of and laws of creation, I would like to share my screen with you, and so we can go through some knowledge that we got already from previous sessions to refresh a little bit your memory. As I said, today we will be learning about 3 forces of a higher level egregores and their impact on our consciousness. And what I would like to start is the types of egregores that we've been talking previously. And as you remember, they are clusters, fractals, and hierarchy. And I made these drawings of as an examples of how clusters, fractals, and hierarchy look like. Okay, so you can see and imagine how all the creation and the egregores that are embedded into the creation look like. And normally the entire hierarchy of egregores, also our earthly egregores and as well as the higher level egregores, they are a combination of those 3. You know that some universes and some worlds are fractals, and some information moves through the clusters as well as the hierarchy itself, so it's the entire combination. And last time we were talking on some of the previous lessons, we were talking about the lower level egregores, the 7 major egregores that are present on the planet Earth. They all interconnected, and we know that very well. We all embedded into all of these egregores very tightly, most of us. And if we're not, it means that we are getting through penetrating the layers and veils of what is permanent, and getting through the barrier of space and time. And it means that we are getting to something that always present, that is alpha and omega. This is indivisible, this is independent, and this is infinite, and we can be with that forever. Meaning, when we're getting through the conditionalities of the lower level egregores, through the recognition, through the practice of transcending the impact of these lower level egregores, we are penetrating the layers of creation and getting together with the absolute, with our home, with our mother, with our father, on the celestial hierarchy. So what are some of the principles that we were discussing on our last classes? They are 3 forces or 3 sacred laws of creation, and in some cultures they are known as Trinity or Trimurti on Sanskrit, and they are representing Shiva, Brahman, and Vishnu, because they are active, passive, and neutralizing force. And active force can be represented as you decided, I'm giving an example, you decided to get enlightened, but then your inertia, your habits, your conditionalities making you stop or stuck on this path, and you're getting back to where you were, and all of a sudden the neutralizing force that cannot be perceived from a subjective point of view by subjective mind, because it's objective and we cannot perceive it from the subjective consciousness. This is a neutralizing force, and this is a representation of those laws that are impacting our existence, our planet, our plane, that we cannot perceive consciously, but it exists. And so when you've fallen back to the inertia of where you were, you anyway getting all of a sudden some miraculous, we could say, circumstances that are pushing you away. For example, you get some knowledge, or you met some teacher, or you met somebody who helped you to understand and to get closer to your purpose and goal. And it's not just a miracle, it's just that we don't know the laws of creation, the main laws of creation, that it is maybe the law, but we don't perceive it consciously because we are not aware of it. So I want to give you an example how three forces are present in our universe and in the entire system of creation. So that was my effort in creating the schematic diagram of how creation is working. And so here you can see the ray of creation that I made. You see on the screen. And how do I shift? Okay, so what you see is the representation of structure of creation. And as I mentioned before, that these three forces, they are representing the powers of the absolute, these three main aspects, active, passive, and neutralizing. And on every level of creation, we have a representation of these forces. So I want to go back to the structure of creation. And as you see, this is also a 7 higher level of egregores that are representing the absolute oneness. And I made it looking like a white circle, a white ring, which is independent absolute oneness. This is the representation of three forces, of three laws of creation. And so each of these three forces creates its own worlds of the second ring, which is the purple color on this presentation. And each world of the second ring, there are three forces of the absolute and three own forces of the second ring of the worlds. In total, representation of 6 forces. So, and the second circle of the worlds gives the birth to the third ring of the worlds, in which there are 3 forces of the absolute, 6 forces of the worlds of the second ring of the circle, and 3 own forces of the 3 own forces of the third world ring. Oh, excuse me, second world ring. So in total, it's 6 forces, and the second ring gives a birth to the ring to the third ring of the worlds, where 3 forces belongs to the absolute, 6 forces belongs to the second circle itself, plus 3 own forces of the worlds of the third ring. In total, it's 12 forces, and the third ring of the world generates fourth ring, where 3 forces belongs to absolute, 6 forces begin to the world of the second ring, and 12 forces of the ring of the third ring, and 3 forces of the fourth ring itself. In total, 24 forces, and the fourth ring of the world generates the 5th ring of the world. It's represented by the green, where 3 forces of the absolute, 6 forces of the world of the second ring, 12 forces of the third ring, 24 forces of the third ring, and 3 own forces of the fifth ring world. In total, it's 48 forces. And fifth ring of the world generates the sixth ring worlds, in which there are 3 forces of the absolute, 6 forces of the world of the second ring, 12 forces of the third ring, 24 forces of the fourth ring, 48 forces of the fifth ring, and 3 own forces of the sixth ring worlds. And in total, it's 96 force. This is where the moon is. And the sixth ring of the world generates the seventh circle of the worlds, in which there are 3 forces of the absolute, 6 forces of the worlds of the second ring, 12 forces of the third ring, 24 forces of the fourth ring, 48 forces of the fifth ring, 96 forces of the fifth circle, and 3 own forces of the seventh ring world. And in total, it's 192 forces. This entire system, it represents the ray of creation. And you see, we are quite far, being people of the earth, we are quite far on this hierarchy. So that's why we are having our own egregores, and they are making us so mechanical. That's why most of our reactions depends on the planet that are satellites of our solar system, and there are so many things that we don't know, even that we don't know. But there are also good news, and the good news are that we as humans, we also represent each of the laws of creation through all these layers. And also, what about the moon? Why moon is here? The moon is also the next level of creation after the sun, our solar system, and the planet. And it's a newly born planet, relatively newly born planet, which will one day become the Earth, if the planets and of the ray of creation will be successfully located in the right places, and it will have its own companion. Similar dynamics seems to be happening with Jupiter, which is the sun for its own satellites. So you can see there is a complete dependency on organic life, the flora and fauna of our planet, of the moon. That's why we are interconnected. So lots of our energy goes to the moon, and that's why there is lunar cycles, there is a period, and many different things that are connected with the life of the Earth and the moon. Generally, you can see that the cosmos is a living organism, and it represents the highest divine egregor with all this totality. And this organism is penetrated with a consciousness that animates everything, right? And the creation itself consists of the 7 main spheres, egregores, that are entering each other like Russian dolls, like matryoshkas or onion, in different from each other in a degree of a vibration and density. What it means, the vibration and density. So can you imagine the atom or neutron of the level of at the level of absolute consists of 3 particles. We will be imagine there is 3 particles. In the world number 2, the number of these particles are 6. In the world number 3, the number of these particles is 12 and 24 and 48 and etc. and so on. So the perception of the matter in a different on the different planes are very different. And the reason is that this dense matter, the way we know it, is under the conditionalities of that many laws of creation. So it is 48 laws of creation. The orders, not 48 laws, but the 48 orders of laws of the ray of creation. This is how we perceive and understand and feel the matter that we have. And for example, earlier on the third or fourth ring of creation, the matter, the density of a matter is completely different. We know only 3 states of the matter, and the density and the vibration, of course, is very different on the higher hierarchy of creation and higher level egregores. It means that at the core of the absolute, the great nothingness, the speed of vibration of the particles of the stardust that everything is made of is so quick, is so fast that that the matter cannot be dense. And the lower the levels of creation and the lower the level of egregores are, the more dense the matter, and the more dense the bodies of those people or creatures that inhabit the densities. So, and this is shouldn't be surprising for you also that it has 7 circles in the structures. It's, of course, everything is just approximate. There's tons of sub-levels of each of the circles of creation, and we will be definitely talking about this in the next sessions, about how we know them as devas, devatas, and the angels, and the creators of the world and sub-creators. We will be definitely talking about that and how we can get into communication with different layers of creation and hierarchy of time, etc., and so on. But what I wanted to tell you, to take your attention to, is this is no wonder that there are the circles of creation are 7, right? So you know we have 7 chakras, and we also have 7 bodies, like 3 mental bodies: astral, causal, atmic, and brahmic, and in different cultures they're known as by different names. But anyways, and they all represent the density and vibration and the system of consciousness of each person. And we cannot say that every single person is the same on this, as we are, as a people of Earth, have in our cells all this information from all the circles of creation, right? And though we cannot say that every single person is a representative of the cosmos completely, because there are people who haven't been incarnated too much as a humans, so this consciousness is still growing, and they may be getting through the lessons of first, second, and third chakra, meaning that they still getting through the main conditionalities as fear, obligation, guilt, survival, money, and sex, for an extension of the generic traditions. But if you're father and mother, it's okay. I absolutely respect that. It doesn't mean that every developed being have not to have family, not at all. But the homogeneous mass of people who are getting through the first 3 lessons of evolution, that haven't been incarnated too many times in these physical bodies, in the humans' bodies, may still get through these layers, and it just means that they have a lot to learn. And as you understand, as you have a firm intention and strong will, you're getting through the circles sooner, faster, and you can speed up your evolution level in this lifetime. But you need to be really direct.